There you go. Good?
Yep.
First week, all right?
Yep.
Good, good. We're all getting back into school mode, right? At least that's how it was for me. So I started grading. I'm sorry, it's a little bit slow at first, but I'm getting everything done by the night. Looking great so far. I'm glad you guys are all involved. Any questions that last week brought up for you guys? No? Straightforward?
Could you go over the positive feedback loop?
Yeah, absolutely. And wait, that was in the first chapter, right?
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me see. Positive feedback. See if you have a picture here. So basically, yeah, that might help here. Let's see if that's sharp enough. Have you understood? Did you understand the negative feedback loop?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But the positive one, I guess because I can't really see it as a loop. I'm trying to understand it as a loop.
Uh-huh. Well, how about a cycle?
Okay.
How about it's just because it's recurring, right? Like
Okay.
the negative is like it goes up and it goes down, right? It's a teeter-totter type thing. And the positive is more like, let me see, I share the screen here. Like, think of giving birth. Like this one here, this picture. So it's more like a loop that keeps going and keeps getting stronger and stronger, like in the birth process. That's one of the places where it's natural to where it's a positive feedback loop is for a physiological process, not a disease process, where the uterus has to contract and has to contract stronger and stronger until the baby is released, given birth, and then it can relax. But if it's sort of like is a negative feedback loop, the uterus will contract, and then it will be like, oh, that's sort of too much in that direction of something. Let's balance it out, and we stop the contraction. The baby will never be born, right? So it's more like it's instead of so it's in they put it together with positive and negative feedback, but it's more like to me more like the negative is more like bringing it back to a teeter-totter thing, and the positive is more like a cycle where it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And then of course that means that most of the processes are having most of the processes that are positive feedback loop are negative, right? They're pathology processes like cancer. Like it gets bigger and bigger and more, and then it disrupts the homeostasis in the body. And homeostasis is always that balance within a range, and the negative feedback loop is sort of the mechanism to get that balance taken care of in the body. All right, you guys got all of that? Well, good, you good. We all good. Any other question? No? Good. Well, then we should go right into what we're doing this week.
I actually have a question here, Doctor.
Excellent. Shoot.
Yeah, so on the last assignment of Health Kit Lifestyle Assessment and Habit Creation,
Yes.
what are we like supposed to do on the first week? Because that assignment, I think it's due on the third week.
Yeah, let me pull that up.
All right.
That's our class, right? Yeah. Oh, let me do student view. So it's like you don't see all the fluffy stuff you don't need to see. There we go. So we're right here.
Yeah.
What I want you to do is work through it.
Mm-hmm.
Here the directions, and then all the way at the bottom. Come on. I want you to submit this for this week. So I want you to have gone through the assessing yourself. So you basically sit there and think about a few things like that's it, how your posture is, how your food habits intakes, water intake is, and how all of that kind of stuff. and you give yourself the score and you upload that. And you know, some people go really in detail. I'm not, you know, I don't need you to share too much personal. That's up to you how deep you want to go with that. But I'm definitely looking for involvement on the project. But everybody, some people make a video of those things, you know. But just some reflection. Then you read through the habit loop, which probably most of you already kind of know, is at least unconsciously. And this is just putting some words to it. And then I want you to go through one routine that you would like to either include in your day or get rid of, and like something for you to, you know, work through the process, and, you know, make it something that you can talk about. Ideally, I mean, I'm not going to share what you're writing. This is all, I'm a physician, so for me, everything that you talk to me privately about in your assignments stays within me. But whatever you want to share in the group, make sure it's something that is okay with you. And then thirdly, I want you to pick one of the 3 health challenges that we do. I pick one of each. Well, no, I pick a challenge of each of the 3 things up here that we can influence, like this part here where we can improve our feeling well, or feeling less sick. As we get older, it's more about feeling less sick. When we're young, it's feeling well. You know, and so the sooner we kind of think about those things in life, the more we have influence over them. And so I want you to pick either something physically. I'm doing a 30-minute cardio type thing. I'm doing the walking. If you do dancing, bicycling, other stuff, but just do the cardio. Shopping is not cardio. That's not walking around. And then, or you pick up drinking 2 quarts of water a day, which is kind of what we should do anyway. But by tracking it for a time, we just monitor it a little more, because most of us don't really have enough water in our day. And, you know, partly I'm doing those, so I act right a few times a year. And then thirdly, the other thing you can choose is a 10-minute meditation, you know, reflection, more like a mindfulness type training, like prayer is also right, a day. And then I want you to tell me or type up which one of the 3 you're going to do. And then you start doing that for 3 weeks. And you do it 5 days a week, that routine. And then that's about that routine. You're doing that routine 5 days. And I'm going to create, probably by tonight, once we got everybody in the class who still wants to add and drop stuff. And then tonight I'll probably create groups with about 5 to 8 people of different of the health challenges. And then once you finish your health challenge, each day you write it. You take note, take it down, like this, for example. This is how I do it. Or just write something down, like you did this thing today, and this is how I feel about it. And then when I have the groups, that's what you're typing in the group. I often upload a picture when I go walking or so, something, and then say, hey, that may, you know, depending on how it makes me feel. Hopefully I don't trip my foot that day, and I don't have to say it makes me feel crappy today. But, you know, it doesn't have to be net positive. It can also be like, oh, I drank so much water and I'm peeing all night. That's not kind of cool. But, you know, it's part of the process. And so that's what we do. And then at the end of the 3 weeks, we have then the next assignment part is where you upload that card or whatever, however you track it. And then we have a little reflection on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
And does that start today? Like we start tracking today? From today?
Yeah, I think the closer to the day, the better. I think some of it is a little fluid. So you start tracking now. Once you turn the assignment in on and then I'm making the groups, and then we're sort of tracking with the group. Then everybody sort of fizzles out a little bit after the 3 weeks, depending on when they started and during that kind of week. But yeah, if you have decided, then start the process.
Absolutely. Thank you. And the reflection can be like a word or like paragraph, right?
What part of you mean?
Like after, like let's say I'm doing meditation. Like after the meditation, I'm reflecting, writing a reflection. So yeah. But I want you to
after the process, or what, I want you to feel into your body for a moment, and then feedback on that, and whatever that means to you, however that means to you. I try not to I try to have my students take this as serious as possible, because it can be very helpful. And I teach, especially since the pandemic and they're online, I teach a little more towards, experience versus just academic stuff. And so, yeah, it can be one word, it can be a little video sometimes, depending on how we feel,
Thank you.
And again, it doesn't have to be positive. It can be like, gosh, I meditate. Sometimes it's like, God, I meditated and I'm anxious, and we can talk about it too in the background. I have 25 years of experience work with people, and, stuff is not just pain. It's usually the life stuff that comes up in things. And it can be very helpful to process this for a little bit. I have some students get really a lot out of it. Depends, of course, how much we put in. All right. Any other questions on this topic here? You like my pink? I like my pink. All right. If not, we can go on. Any other questions on the first week?
Sorry, I'm only seeing a black screen, but when you're sharing your
anybody see no screen, or do you guys see the module?
Or is that just me?
We can see your screen.
I can see it.
Okay.
Do you want to go in and out, come back in, or you want to?
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, thank you.
Let's see, and then speak up if you still have problems. We'll figure it out. And I am making a video, so okay. So yeah, any other questions about how the questions work? For example, see this symbol here. I'm gonna go through all of these today, so I'll give you feedback or answer these today for you. Plan your studies. That should be self-explanatory. But again, if you have anything, come up and talk to me. And otherwise, and I also will go through all the Padlets. If you go do the Padlets, and usually I try to do those ahead of evening on Sunday, but I will go through all of them today as well. And if you do a Padlet, you can sign in with a school ID plus at cc.peralta.edu. And if you can't do that, just put your name in a post like some of you guys do here, because then I can give you credit. So if you can sign in, don't worry about it. You just have to go in and check once in a while if somebody answered you or so. That would be kind of good, because we put in the time and energy to have a conversation. But if you and I've noticed that it's harder to sign in on a mobile device than on a laptop or a computer. So if you have ability to sign into the Padlet from the computer and you work on a computer, then that might be easier for this activity. But in any way, if you can't sign in, just stay anonymous, no problem. Just put your name down, and then we're all good. But I take those very seriously, those Padlets. Yup. All right. So if there's no question on week 1 for now, if it comes up, interrupt me. Again, in my Zooms, you interrupt me. But that gets us right into week 2. As a reminder, I want you to always keep the test review handy. And as you work through your material, make sure all these bullet points is what you really understand. And then, because then that's what shows up on the test, which also means this is what I think is the essence of what, the sort of the latest takeaway. So I actually would print it out. Here's a PDF to print it out. I'll print it out and then have it be part of my material. I put all my booklets in a Ziploc and put all the other stuff too. Of course, that's my way of, camping organization. But, a lot of students start using a foundation class like that to sort of building a framework of knowledge, because the thing with anatomy and physiology, I don't have to share right now, is that it's really a lot of detailed knowledge, you know, and you can go to all kind of level of detail and drive yourself crazy, or I would drive myself crazy personally because I'm not that kind of a person. But it's also a field. This whole medicine and stuff field is a thing where you start creating a web of knowledge and a web of experiences and a web of how to think about something. So when I do my physiology thinking, for example, when I was in Cairo school, at some point I realized it's like, oh, if a thinking makes sense to me the way it really works in nature, then I just have to remember that that made sense to me. And so then that starts building that way of thinking. Like if I go through, what do we do? Introduction. I don't have a good example on introduction right now. But I want you to sort of build a way of thinking. So like that is actually why we're starting with the introduction. Oh, and there is an example I have. Like, for example, we say like this is called the brachial area, for example, and this is called the axillary area. This is called, I don't know, I have to look it up myself, you know, but some of them are more sticking out than others. And you want to study them at least one time around in this class, and then the next time around again, because ultimately, guess what? If you see something in a literature or something describes something, says brachii or brachy or something in brachial terms, you know it's up here. If it says axa, you know it's down here. If we start talking about muscles, if you study the term brachii, where that is, you have 4 muscles that are right here. You all don't have to study the muscles that deeply then, because you already know from the name where it is located, more or less. And so that sort of narrows down and helps make a framework of information knowledge, and then it gets easier and easier to build in the challenges. Because the thing is, I can't say that, but I never have the ability to memorize all the little details. When I work on patients, I actually look my stuff up. I make myself anatomy plates on my iPad, and I go in and look all the little detail muscle up in the fingers. So I know where I'm where I'm palpating and what I'm working on. And I'm not going to consider that, oh, if I do that, the patient will think like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Because guess what? I work on many doctors and they don't know their anatomy either. So looking it up is not a bad idea. Working with the material is not a bad idea. And for you guys in the beginning stages of making that framework and building that knowledge, I want to make sure you're not overwhelmed by like, oh my God, I'll never get this in my head because it's so much stuff. Because I don't. And at some point, you realize you don't have to. You really learn how to think. And that's, you know, and physiology is the same way. You know, you learn how something works. And like we're getting into chemistry now. So you're starting to learn these processes. Like, you know, you're starting to learn like, oh, water is most of the body. And then you start realizing, well, if I don't have water in the body, if I'm always dehydrated, well, my body is not going to chemically work that well because most chemical processes need water. So if I don't drink water and I eat medicine, how do I expect the medicine to work in my body if the cells don't have water to do the chemical processes? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, maybe I should drink some water. Maybe that's a good idea. And, you know, Coke ain't water. That's the problem, right? And so those are things that then tied together, and we start building a knowledge base and an experience base also to understand how the body works more and more. And so that's my real goal of this class. Then, because then you go to afterwards, you go to the doctor and you start thinking, that makes sense. Should I do this? Do we have another maybe way that I like better? You'd go with your gut feeling. You have to say no to everything, but you don't have to say yes to everything as well. And that includes medicine, because unfortunately, don't get me wrong, the medical doctors, as far as I know, they all have incredibly good intentions, but we have Speedy Gonzalez medicine. So it's a little hard to get everything covered. You know, when you have to see 30 patients a day, you're kind of messed up. I mean, I'm telling you, if you have to see 30 patients a day and you're not messed up, something's wrong with you. That's a lot of freaking people coming in and telling you, oh, I'm hurting here, I'm doing this. I don't want to. You know, but I mentioned to my MD patient, one of them lately, I have one right now that comes frequently, and I said, yeah, and you know, you're walking around with an empathy deficit. if you always have to give out empathy to everybody, it's just like, oh my God, I never thought about that. Like, don't burn out, please. We need you. So anyway, but that's part of where this, class and we're doing what we're doing is also, to me, part of the bigger picture of the whole gestalt of medicine and healthcare and health and feeling well. Good. Yeah, you better shut me up. I'm chattering away today. Let's get to the meat here. So keep the test review in mind as you work through your material. I will print it out ahead of time, so I got it, and work backwards, having that in front of me, having the booklet in front of me, and watching the videos. That's what I do. You don't have to watch all the videos. I would watch, maybe last time you watched one set of videos or both, but then this time maybe watch the ones you like better. Or watch the class one and then go back and where you feel like you need to fill it in, because there's a bunch of videos. This is a pretty big chapter. Oh, look at me screaming at the class. Same t-shirt. I had a student made me that t-shirt, and it's like I only wear it in class. So it stays good as long as possible and don't wash out too fast. And so you watch the videos, either or set, and then you go through these points, or I would do it parallel. I would have, the videos on the phone or something, and then these points or the booklets and the booklets, because the problem with this is it's just the words. It's not really many pictures. And then the test review. And then after you've done that, then it's time to go through the questions here, chemistry questions. Now, if you're in a hurry, you can always, or you say like, hey, I've done this 3 times. I don't need to do the whole thing again. You go do this and just watch this, and you answer the questions, and you get to the concepts, and you work backwards to make sure you understand what I want from you from this chapter. Because this chemistry is not that deep. It's really fundamental, just mostly for understanding what we're talking about when we talk about the body stuff. So most of my questionnaires, the quizzes, so to speak, have a video behind it that explains it in a class setting. And then if it still has issues, or you don't understand, or my wording is a little weird because I'm just trying my best, then, reach out. Just shoot me a text and I'll explain it to you, or explain it a different way. All right, what else is there? So far, so good, you guys? Hello, anybody there?
Yes.
All right, good. Because, sometimes like you're speaking to myself here. Oh no, look, we got some people. All right, and then we got a few concepts. Oh no, look here. Then we have this semester. This week is still a little bit of a week to get a few extra things done, and one of them is I want us to spotlight a scientist. I want us to think about a minority, or actually think about somebody who's not a mainstream person that we expect in that field to do some discovery or advance the field or something like that. I mean, I have one that I read this morning from a different class that was from the Philippines, a doctor that was really instrumental in creating healthcare and really boosting that up. I mean, that's incredible, for example. And again, as a woman doctor from the Philippines, she probably is not that famous. Or I posted myself, I worked to, Einstein's wife, and Madame Curie as well. Einstein's wife was very instrumental in helping him figure out the laws of relativity, but she didn't get no credit for that. And so that was kind of, needing, to me, that's important to talk about, and at least give her credit now, for example. And so I wanted to just reflect. It could be somebody from the country that you're from somebody you would like to introduce to us too. Because we have a discussion on it. So you go and find somebody, and then you go into this map and make a post. What I want you to do is what you do first is go to Wikipedia and look up the person, and I want you to read up on them a little bit more. And then I want you to open this in a Google map, which you can do here, and take the first, most likely, as I do that this way, I take the first paragraph of the Wikipedia, and copy paste it into the text field of where this person lives. Follow the instructions there on the Google map. And then take out all the, you know, parentheses and weird stuff that refers things back to things. Because generally, you know, I don't need to have you be writing an English. I mean, you can, of course, write your own paragraphs too, but I don't need you to worry about that too much. It's more important that we have an exchange. And generally speaking, the first paragraph of Wikipedia is pretty well written and summarizes sort of what's going on with the person or what went on with the person. And then after you've done that, you go into the discussion forum. Oh, look, we got some people already doing that. Wonderful. And you go and write about it, and you post what you've wrote, and you also post a picture. Oh yeah, the other thing is you add a picture to that, which you can do in Google Maps easily. And then you post it in discussion forum as well. Say, why did I choose this person? Give a little more background data. And that can be just because, hey, I like the name. It doesn't have to be deep, but it can be as well. Like for me, it'd be like, I would actually do Carl Jung, but he's a white male guy who probably is not a minority in that world, but my grandmother lived in the same town. He had his whole clinics and all that. So that would be a very interesting personal connection. So whatever it is for you, you know, and then you go, and then lastly, you know, you write that and post that in the discussion. And lastly, you read some other people's classmates and you reply to 2 of them at least. And you do not have to type. You can always make videos of anything in this class, or even an audio. Well, this is kind of a picture, so an audio might be. Well, no, you can make an audio and put the picture up. Absolutely, you can do that. Be creative. And when I mean be creative, you don't have to be creative. But what I want you to do is explore in this early kind of, you know, beginning kind of class. I mean, not that you're a beginner in school, but it's a foundation class. And a lot of you guys are early back in college or early to college. I want you to explore what your learning ways are. You know, don't just go with the program. Spend a little time maybe you trying different things and say, hey, that was much easier than typing. You know, I mean, you know, when I do an audio or video, I kind of, you know, scratch a few words. I'm very lucid thinking. So I'm like, you know, associative thinking. So I scratch a few words on a piece of paper, and then I know quickly what to touch on. And I don't have to spend my 15, 20 minutes trying to phrase something. I mean, this morning's text that I sent you took me probably 20 minutes to do. It's like I'm very slow at this stuff. So, and I'm walking the dog as well, and he's sitting around, and then I, take a, which is good process because things takes time. Things, marinating things in the brain is much more beneficial than we actually think. So a lot of the answers show up if you let them sit for a while. That's another thing. If you start early in the week with some of these assignments, you don't have to do the assignment. You say like, hey, a scientist, or then the next one will be a picture. And you can start as you go through the weeks, like, hey, who would that be? Well, and then all of a sudden somebody pops in your head, and then it's done, easy, finito, done. Don't have to worry about it. That's another thing. That's another advantage when we don't procrastinate that I try to learn as I get older. So, I think don't feel too bad if you're a procrastinating person. If you're late with my stuff, I don't punish you too much. I give you 1% off a day as a maximum of 10%, which in an assignment that you get all the points if you're doing it, that's still an A. That's still a 90%. And then if so don't worry too heavily about that penalty thing. And then if it's like, well, you got an 89 at the end, I'm not gonna, and you were late for a few, I'm not gonna say, oh, well, that's too bad. You're still gonna get an A. Anybody? Somebody was talking. All right, no. All right. The second sort of funky assignment I want to do this week is explain through images. As you learn this stuff and you have the picture booklets, then you know how important to me pictures are. And I've learned over the years, the study tool thing is all right, but the kinesthetic, visual, and auditory never really fully made sense to me. And because I do think as I learn from other people, I always knew I'm very kinesthetic. but it seems to be that pretty much everybody is kinesthetic, and visual comes with that as well, because if we see something, we can visualize the 3D sort of thing much better, and in some ways that's kinesthetic as well. So there is that there is sort of that thing. So I want you to at least all go, and again, I'm not assuming you don't know, but I just want to make sure we all go through the process of going to Google or whatever browser you use, putting some keywords that we want to have pictures of, search and put the images in, and then pick an image, copy, download it into a discussion board, but I also will put it into a Word document and make my own atlas of pictures, because when I went through chiropractic, so I've been reflecting on that. I really don't think I read a book. I think I looked at always the pictures, the captions, and sort of the glanced through the bolded terms and the italicized terms, and took corpus. I forgot that word. Very many notes of what I was taught, to the effect that they actually took my notes and made sort of cliff notes out of it, and then they sold them. I didn't get anything, but it didn't matter to me because I got the info in my noggin. That's what I needed to do. But the reading process, and then from reading into thinking into a way that I can remember, is a very difficult process. That's why I feel as a teacher, it's my job to pre-digest the info. That's why I do have the physical text with the class. But I also want you to learn on doing your own books and stuff, and explore that a little bit, and see how you like it. And so by doing this exercise, we basically mean that we explore that a little bit. All right, that's easy peasy. Any questions on that? No? Again, if you have anything, speak into me. Don't wave your hands. I can't see anybody. I'm looking fully at my screen. And then lastly, we're gonna have we have the discussion, understanding concepts. A lot of you guys did really well on the first one that I've glanced at. I didn't grade them yet, but they're coming next. Second week, same kind of thing. A few questions I have that I want you to reflect on a little more. I have in a discussion format. Again, you don't have to type. You can make videos. You can make audio. If somebody is a really good drawer, you can even do that. Sometimes. I mean, I had a guy making videos out of these labeling exercises. Phenomenal stuff. It was really cool. I got him somewhere. I got to make sure I don't, I asked him if I can actually put them in the further resources as ideas or so. And he said yes. Anyway, lastly, this week, we also gonna apply our chemistry that we're learning, because the second part about the chemistry, this is organic chemistry, which is really about the chemistry about our body, the stuff. Organic is sort of whenever it has carbon in it, and we're carbon-based life form in here on this planet, then we talk about it being organic. And so I'm thinking, well, hey, how are we gonna make sure we learn that? And so I'm figuring food labels are not a bad idea. So I want you to go and do some food labels. Look at the nutrition fact and fill out this table down here. How many calories per serving? How many servings per container? How many calories you consume? So this is important to understand. If the serving on the container says 5 chips, and you eat 10 chips, it's 2 servings. And the amount per serving is not the amount per container. So see here, it says 2 servings per container or whatever this was. And so the whole container has 500 calories. So if you eat the whole container, just put the double on it. And that, it's not no judgment call on it. I mean, I eat the whole thing of many things, because especially like if I don't eat for a while, or I need a lot of energy. But I want you to make sure you understand that. And then we go through the fats, the saturated fats, the trans fats, the cholesterol. Sodium is important, potassium, carbs, fiber in the carbs, sugars also in the carbs, proteins, and then a few vitamins and minerals. Not everyone, and see, I describe everything here too. Not every food will have all those on it. So just, do the best you can Obviously, don't drive yourself nuts if you don't see that there's any potassium in a cookie, because probably there is no potassium in a cookie. And then I want you don't, make a table or something. You can use it on however it works for you. Again, my rule of turning in this kind of stuff is that I need to be able to read it. If I can't read it, I can't grade it. So then you just need to upload it again. Sometimes the picture is not that good, and so that will. But just when you write, just use your Sunday writing and not your doctor writing. Oh yeah, the other thing with this is I want you to use one fruit, one vegetable, which you will have to look up the food labels on Google-ish or something, which is fine. And then I want you to use three. Well, then I want you to use one processed thing you're eating, and then just whatever the other two are. Most people end up using something processed because the label is right on the food box. But I want to sort of get a little comparison and of the different level, because one of the things that is a challenge for us humans with food and health is the level of processing that a food has done, right? The more natural, the better, the healthier, the less. There was an interesting experiment in the 30s last century by the dentist noticed when the food preservatives came in, the sugars and the salty stuff, more before refrigeration came sort of handy, and they noticed is the teeth in the people are not as good anymore. And this guy did an experiment, and he gave cats, baby cats, he served them two groups. He served them either raw meat and raw milk or cooked meat and pasteurized milk in the 30s. So that was either good food or crappy food. To him, that was crappy food. And he saw over generations of cats, because they have litter sooner than we do, that the group who had the cooked stuff got more feebly and less healthy over generations. And then he started feeding them the raw stuff, and they got healthier again over generations. So there's that. I mean, as I'm thinking about it, because it's like the bad is like, oh my God, we're screwed as humans. Because we've been eating TV dinner since the 70s. We are like, a couple generations out or so. And it's like, never mind. And so in my practice, I do feel I see more people with collagen type disorders, like not as strong, resilient. And that will go completely with, everything is a carbohydrate that we're eating. And so I think, but the cool thing is you can also change it. I mean, it's a little hard sometimes to get all the fresh fruits and stuff, but we're also a culture of throwing away a lot of food. And so I try to make sure I just get the good stuff and then eat it and not throw it away as much as I can. But, we do what we can. But at least in this exercise, I want us to be a little reflective about it and just, do that, go through that. All right? That makes sense?
Quick question.
Yes, please.
Okay, so for like the list, are we just using it for the stuff that we're eating throughout like the day and stuff, or are we just using it from like Google too?
No, you just use 5 foods that you're eating. I hope you're eating some fruit and some vegetables. So use one of those each. Otherwise, it's time to start, I guess. and then you use one that's a processed food, like a chip or something like that. That you have the label usually on the box, right? Don't have to write down. Well, write down how much you eat in one serving, in one sitting, not serving, in one sitting. So that one, do that measuring, right? But don't have to write down what you're eating all day today, or do it. We have one exercise where we do track the salt similarly, because blood pressure and salt's very related. And then we have one exercise where we journal what we eat through a week or 5 days, because that's more like a tracking what we eat. But I'm more interested in the journaling part, more like how is our state of mind? Are we eating alone, with other people? What are we doing? And of course, what we eat. And so we're doing that at the end of the semester. That's one of those. So this one is just looking at 5 foods you're consuming and breaking them down sort of chemically what's in them in those foods. Okay? You froze. Anybody else? I'm sure you'll come back. Good. So that's clear as mud, right? Good. And at the end of the week, you're going to give me that Padlet clear as mud points, right? And I'll do as good as I can to be on track this week. So when you post it, I'll give you feedback right away, hopefully. I'll try to do as good as I can. My semester wheels are starting to turn. So hopefully yours are too. Good. Any questions to anything else or comments or final thoughts before we close it out? Because we're pretty good closing it out soon here. Well then, I wish you a wonderful week. And this will be recorded so you can review it. But more importantly, be not a stranger. Send me a text, be in touch, have questions. I'm here for you guys, all right?
Thank you. Have a great week.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.